Today we're going to be reviewing the Virginia documents. Do you remember what the two Virginia documents are? Hopefully this video, if you didn't already know, hopefully this video will help you figure at least one of the documents out that we talked about yesterday.
In 1607, we sailed the open sea, for glory, God, and gold, and our Virginia Company. For the New World is like heaven, and we'll all be rich and free, or so we have been told by the Virginia Company. So we have been told by the Virginia Company.
Do you now know at least one of the documents? So it's Charters of the Virginia Company of London, because that video was all about the Virginia Company when the first group of settlers came to the New World. We're going to talk about that document today and how it got our country started. So the first thing I want to ask you is, why would people want to come to the New World? Why would they want to leave the world that they've always known to come to this new place where it's the unknown? Any guesses? Okay, so was it an economic venture? Did they think they were going to make money? Was it to add new power? Maybe just to have a new way of life. Maybe they were just having a pathetic life where they were and they just wanted a new start. Or maybe it was just those adventurous ones who wanted that new exciting step in life, the new chapter. So the problem was, before they could come over here, money needed to be raised. So how was it going to be raised? Well, essentially, what would happen was these merchants who wanted to grow this new world, joint stock companies were created. Do you guys know what stocks are when you buy a stock in something? So when you buy a stock in something, that means you give a portion of your money to that company. Like if I were to buy stock in McDonald's, I give some of my money to McDonald's, I buy their stock. And then when they do really well, I get money back, like I get returns. I get part of my investment back. And that's the purpose of these joint stock companies. So people would give of their money to these joint stock companies, and the companies are able to raise funds this way. So essentially, a person could buy as many shares of stock as they wanted. But here's the thing. If they bought lots and lots of stock and this venture failed, what would happen to the money they invested? All of the money would be gone. But as if they only bought a couple of stocks, they wouldn't lose as much money. However, if they made lots of money and the venture fully succeeded, those who bought more stock would get more returns. And those who bought less stock would get less returns. So basically, people were given the chance to invest however much they wanted. And their profit would be based on the number of shares they owned. But again, if it failed, the investor was only out of the money he or she invested. So that was a quick way to raise money. So at that point, the Virginia Company, that was the song, the Virginia Company of London was created. And that was what you see in the background, that was the seal of the Virginia Company of London. So basically, this document granted the Virginia Company the promise of settling in this new world. It gave them the right to leave England and come over to the New World and make a settlement. What would have been some of their fears? Okay, good. So let's talk about the charter, the document itself. So it gave them permission to come over here. But it basically laid out all of the things that could happen once that came into place. So the first thing it said was that colonists could own property in the new place. They could settle a piece of the land once they got over there. And it stated that they could organize their own small government. But the main important thing here is it told them that even though they would move to the New World and move away from England, the life they've ever known, they would still have the same rights. So it would be like as if they were still living in England. However, the colonists, as far as their own government, were only allowed to have a royal governor. And that governor had to do what the king said. So he was under the power of the king. So was it really their own government? No. And eventually, the colonists felt like they did not have their same rights. So in other words, that's when we come to the Declaration of Independence and the fighting of the Revolutionary War, because they felt like their rights were truly not the same. What are some examples of rights that they felt like that were different should they have stayed in England? So eventually came two things, even before and at the same time as the Declaration of Independence. But the two Virginia documents that were created were the Virginia Declaration of Rights and the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. One of those is super easy to figure out what was the purpose. So let's talk about the two documents. The Virginia Declaration of Rights was created by George Mason, and the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom was created by Thomas Jefferson. So the Virginia Declaration of Rights, it was written because at this point Virginia had broke away from English rule, and at this point they were forming their own government in 1776. So again, this is right around the same time as the Declaration of Independence. At this point, the colonies were also in the beginning of the Revolutionary War. What's really cool about this document is if we were to compare it to the Bill of Rights, you would see many similarities. And what you're going to learn over the course of the next week or two is that the Bill of Rights was the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. So if we were to compare the two side by side, they would be very similar because when the Bill of Rights was written, many of the ideas were taken from the Virginia Declaration of Rights. And an easy way to remember this is if you look at the two, Declaration of Rights, Bill of Rights. Only one word is changed in the two phrases. Questions about the Virginia Declaration of Rights? All right, so the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom was basically written to give everyone the right to choose their own religion. It was written in the middle of the Revolutionary War. So this is when it was becoming very obvious that the folks who were fighting the Revolutionary War wanted to be different. They wanted to have their own way of doing things. They didn't want to be confined to one single religion, so they gave people the right to choose. This would also later become the basis for the freedom of religion, also found in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Questions?